So do you think it's an urgent problem about the decline of bees?
I don't actually know. I think we've passed the corner on with the ban of neonics that the governments have started to realise what's important. The hive beetle is the other one that's currently in Italy but could spread right over Europe. So I'm really against importing bees from across the channel if at all possible, because that's how we get these non-native diseases, and the bees haven't learned how to cope with it.
Well, I heard in America that actually most bees in America now are Australian bees, because American bees went extinct because of that colony collapse disorder.
Yeah.
So they're actually all American now.
And then you end up with bees that haven't evolved to adapt to the natural environment they live in.
This is the honey extraction room.
That's right, yeah.
So can you explain some of the equipment in here for me?
So we'll take you through the process, how you extract the honey. So down here, this is how the honey comes in. It comes in boxes, supers, and then you have a frame of honey. Great examples, but something like that. So you can see this, what the honeybees make. It's honeycomb full of honey, and then you scrape off the top layer of wax using this machine here, which is a spinner. So you turn this on, and then those brushes brush off that top layer of wax, exposing the honey. So you do this on both sides, and then when the top layer is off, it goes in this machine here. And that's a honey extractor. So you open this up, and they go into these metal cages, and when every cage is full, start it up, it spins around at great speed, and the centrifugal force throws the honey out to the outside of the machine, and then it flips over and does the other side until all the honey is out of the honeycomb, and then you drain it off. It goes into over here to a strainer, filter and settling tank. So that takes any bits of wax out of the honey.
How long does it take to do this?
Normally about, it's a matter of hours to actually extract the honey, but to set the honey, as I'll show you in a minute, that takes a few days. So take out any bits of wax, and then it settles, which means all the air bubbles rise to the surface, and then you get the clear honey. And then you tank it off, and if it's a clear honey, it's ready to be jarred, and if it's a set honey, it goes into this machine at the end here. That's a creamer, and that runs for 2 days. You put the honey in there, and it's got a paddle that runs around, and for about 48 hours, and as the honey crystallises, it grinds the crystals up against each other, and so you get a very fine sort of velvety texture to the honey. So you've got a turntable, turns the jars around. They go under the filler, each one gets filled up and then moved on to the next one. And tops on, labels, and it's in the shop.
We're here today to interview him about the decline of bees. So our first question for you, Henry, is what can you tell us about the decline within the bee population?
So I can really primarily only speak for the honeybee population, because that's my field. The decline. Yes, we don't have any feral bees living anymore, or at least not for any length of time, which is a great shame. Feral bees are bees that live in the wild, so they're not kept in hives by beekeepers. They're bees that live in trees and things. So, for instance, if a swarm of bees go off from a hive and they find a tree to live in, they'll live there for probably a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. But after that time, particularly we suffer from the varroa mite, will build up in the hive, and that will eventually kill the hive. So that's the main cause of loss of wild bees.
So that's one of the causes of bee decline in recent years.
Yeah.
However, what do you think are the other causes for the rapid decline of bees?
Yeah, so I think there are 3 main sort of categories of things. There's non-native pests and diseases, so of which varroa is the main one, but there's also other pests and diseases that get passed onto the bees, and also a big danger there of 2 really imminent pests that might come over imminently from Europe actually. So as pests and diseases, you've got a loss of natural habitat. So we have a monocultural farming system here. So bees, for instance, they might be surrounded by hundreds of acres of oilseed rape. So if they have a fantastic month, produce lots of honey, And then after that, because it's all flowered, they're left in effectively a desert, so they're really pushed for finding food resources, which is why we follow this technique of having to move the bees not long distances, but from crop to crop, so they ensure a good forage all year round. Yeah, and then the third thing is basic pollution of their environment, so it's either pesticides, herbicides, or other pollutants, which can be a real problem. So you have to be very careful when you're sighting bees to keep them well away from things like potato crops, because the spray they use for potato blight is very, very toxic for bees, and yeah, just keep them away from sprays in general. So on that level, the one big thing that was a real problem for bees probably about 5 years ago was neonicotinoids, and they've been banned. They've been banned throughout the whole of Europe now, and that's definitely resulted in an improvement in the bee health.
If the bees continue to disappear, how would it affect everyday life for the average person?
So they're an essential pollinator. There's no question about it. So I move my bees from all the different crops. They also raid the field beans. And throughout the year, and the farmers reckon they get about 30 to 40% better yield on the crops. So bees mean food, as well as being an essential link in the whole chain of biodiversity.
So how can the public actually prevent bees from getting extinct?
Giving them forage, so plenty of wildflowers. People are busy at the moment, busy cutting their verges everywhere, and really just leave the verges so all the dandelions flower, so they've got a bit of natural forage, and then when they finish flowering, then is the time to cut them. So it's just think a bit more about your natural environment and flowers, and it's food for bees.